how is it possible that at the time of his death, Steve Jobs, the visionary behind Apple, was worth $10.2 billion, dollars, while Bill Gates, his contemporary, sometimes rival, was sitting at a staggering $59 billion? Dollars. That's a huge difference, right?
It absolutely is. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? 'Cause you kind of expect them to be, well, closer, given their impact.
Exactly. And that gut feeling, that's why we're doing this deep dive. Today, we're going to unpack that very question. We'll explore the fascinating careers of Jobs and Gates.
Yeah, our mission here is basically to sift through a whole bunch of sources. Reddit threads, documentaries, biographies, that kind of stuff.
And pull out the key insights. We want to help you understand this massive difference in wealth and maybe have some aha moments about the early tech scene.
You might think you know the answer already. Maybe it's just about who sold more computers or software.
But it's way more complicated than that. The real story involves, really early decisions, some pretty unlikely ventures.
And even a point where Steve Jobs nearly lost absolutely everything. It's quite a ride.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning.
Ah.
Steve Jobs. Born February 24th, 1955, adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs.
Right. And in '61, the family moves to Mountain View, California, which was just becoming,
Yeah,
you know,
Silicon Valley.
exactly this hub for electronics.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting is how that place shaped him.
How so?
Well, his adoptive dad, Paul Jobs, he was a machinist,
Yeah.
taught Steve about electronics by fixing cars. But maybe more importantly,
Yeah.
he taught him about craftsmanship, like really meticulous craftsmanship, even for the parts you don't see, like the back of a cabinet.
Ah, okay. So that focus on perfection, even the hidden stuff, that was there from the start.
Totally. It became a huge part of Apple's whole design thing later on.
Makes sense. And Steve himself said he liked those Eichler homes, the well-designed but affordable ones.
Yeah.
He said that was his original vision for Apple, to bring great design and simple capability to something that doesn't cost much.
Even early on, he was different. In high school, they called him kind of brain and kind of hippie, or outsider.
And a prankster, too. I read he gave a third-grade teacher a nervous twitch with some elaborate prank.
Huh. Yeah, sounds about right. And his determination, it was already there, like with college.
Reed College, right. Super expensive.
One of the most expensive. And his parents weren't exactly rolling in it, but he insisted. Gave them an ultimatum, basically. Read or nowhere.
Wow. And then he dropped out anyway.
Well, yeah. But he audited classes he liked, like calligraphy.
Calligraphy. Seems random.
Seems random, but that interest in fonts and letter forms, it directly influenced the look of the Mac's operating system later. It all connects,
Okay, so after Reed, he ends up at Atari, working as a technician.
Yeah, for like $5 an hour. And he got this reputation for being difficult, prickly.
In the body odor thing.
Oh, yeah. He thought his vegetarian diet meant he didn't need deodorant. Apparently, his colleagues disagreed. He ended up on the night shift to avoid them.
Yikes. So then came the India trip in '74.
Right, with Daniel Kaki. He was on this spiritual quest, looking for enlightenment, trying to figure out his identity, partly because he didn't know his birth parents,
That search for something deeper, you can see how that might influence his later work, too. That drive for simplicity, maybe?
Absolutely. It all feeds in. And it's after this time that things really kick off with Apple. He'd met Steve Wozniak back in 1970.
Was the engineering genius?
The absolute wizard with circuits. And Jobs was the vision, sales guy.
There's that story about the breakout game for Atari.
Oh, right. Jobs got Wozniak to design it super fast, minimal chips, promised him a flat fee.
But Atari gave Jobs a bonus for saving chips, didn't they?
He did, and Jobs. Well, he didn't tell Wozniak about it for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Get the bonus.
Ouch. That must have hurt Wozniak when he found out.
Deeply. Kind of shows some of the complex, sometimes difficult parts of Jobs' personality early on.
Despite that, they founded Apple Computer Inc., April 1st, 1976. Jobs, Wozniak, and Ron Wayne, though he left pretty quickly.
Yeah. First product, the Apple I. Built in the garage, sold to hobbyists. But the Apple II in '77, that was the real game changer.
Was designed the electronics, obviously, but Jobs obsessed over the case, right? The look and feel.
Totally. The unusual case, the power supply. He even argued about expansion slots. Jobs wanted 8, Woz wanted 2.
Who won that one?
Wozniak, actually, one of the rare times. But the Apple II became this huge hit, a mass-produced microcomputer.
And software like VisiCalc made it indispensable for businesses, right? Brought in millions by '79.
Okay, and they developed this Apple marketing philosophy with Mike Marcola, the first big investor.
What was that about?
3 things. Empathy, understand the customer. Focus, be laser sharp. And Imputation, the idea that packaging and presentation imply quality. How it looks matters.
That focus on design and user experience was baked in from the very start then.
Absolutely critical. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The Apple III was a disaster.
Oh yeah, the overheating one.
Total flop. Jobs dictated the case size and refused to change it, even when engineers were yelling that things wouldn't fit or would overheat.
Leading to recalls and that infamous advice.
To lift the computer 6 inches and drop it? Yeah. It shows his intense, almost dangerous focus on form over function sometimes.
But then came the turning point. Xerox PRC in '79, the graphical user interface, the mouse.
A truly revolutionary moment. He saw what they had, this visual way of interacting with the computer.
And he made a deal, right? Apple invested $1 million in Xerox stock.
In exchange for a peek at their tech. Xerox's stock did well later, sure, worth over $17 million, but Apple got the keys to the kingdom, basically.
They got the future of computing.
Pretty much. Jobs took over the Macintosh project in '81. He wanted that graphical interface, a mouse. He pushed for a powerful Motorola chip, the 68000.
Against the original project lead, Jeff Raskin.
Yeah, Raskin wanted something cheaper, simpler. Jobs wanted whizzier graphics. He saw the potential for a mass-market graphical machine, like a cheaper Lisa.
And the launch. The 1984 Super Bowl ad. Iconic.
Directed by Ridley Scott. Cost $750,000 back then, which was insane. The board hated it, thought it was a waste of money.
But Wozniak loved it.
Woz was astounded. And Jobs insisted it's about Apple, not him, positioning Apple as the rebel.
This is also when we get the term reality distortion field.
Coined by Bud Tribble, one of the software guys. It described Jobs' knack for convincing anyone of almost anything.
Yeah.
Bending reality to his will.
Pushing engineers to do the impossible, like finishing the Mac code in a week.
Exactly. It was seen as both, dangerous and also the thing that let him actually change reality sometimes. Get things done that seemed impossible.
But that intensity, that style,
Yeah.
it eventually led to conflict, didn't it?
Big time. The power struggle with John Scully.
The guy he recruited from Pepsi with that legendary line.
Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world? Classic Jobs.
But Scully sided with the board in '85.
Yep. And Jobs was out. Fired from the company he started. Kept only 1 share of stock. Gone for 11 years.
So basically, his initial Apple fortune, gone.
Pretty much evaporated right there.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot. He enters these wilderness years.
Starting Next T Computer in '85.
Right. Aimed at higher education. Still obsessed with design perfection, like that expensive magnesium case.
Did Next T work out?
Commercially, not really. Sold only about 50,000 computers. It struggled. But they pivoted to software. Next T step, web objects.
And that software ended up being really important, didn't it?
Incredibly important. Later on, it actually became the foundation for Apple's modern operating system and powered the Apple Store and iTunes Store. So even in failure, he was laying groundwork.
Okay, but the other big thing from this era was Pixar.
Ah, yes. Pixar. He bought it from George Lucas in 1986 for $5 million.
Initially, it wasn't exactly a money spinner either, right? Despite winning awards for shorts like Tin Toy.
No, it bled money for years. Jobs kept pouring his own cash into it, millions and millions. He really believed in it, even when it looked grim. Until Toy Story in 1995. That changed absolutely everything. Feature-length computer animation was suddenly viable, huge.
And then came the Disney acquisition in 2006.
For $7.4 billion. In stock, which meant Steve Jobs, who only had that one symbolic share of Apple left at the time he was fired,
suddenly becomes Disney's largest single shareholder, holding about 7% of the company.
And that is the first major piece of the puzzle answering our initial question.
Right. So his $10.2 billion net worth at death wasn't really from his original Apple days.
No. It was almost entirely based on the Pixar sale, getting all that Disney stock, plus the stock he got when he came back to Apple in '97.
That's a crucial distinction. He basically built a second fortune after losing the first one. Incredible resilience.
Totally. And his return to Apple. Well, that was something else entirely. Apple was circling the drain in '96.
Less than 90 days from being insolvent, I read.
It was dire. So Apple buys NextT for $400 million, mainly for the software, and boom, Jobs is back as interim CEO in '97.
And he didn't waste any time shaking things up.
Ruthless turnaround. He slashed projects left and right. Newton PDA, gone. CyberDoc, OpenDoc, all cut. Total focus.
He got a reputation for summary executions of projects and maybe even people.
Yeah, it was brutal, but probably necessary to save the company.
Yeah.
He also cut Apple's philanthropic programs, famously.
Which were never really restored in the same way, and he didn't sign the Giving Pledge later, unlike Gates.
Right. Though, Apple did eventually start matching employee donations and gave a lot to AIDS relief in Africa under him. His focus seemed to be that the products were the contribution.
And that philosophy came through in the Think Different campaign in '97.
Iconic. Those black and white portraits, Einstein, Gandhi, Lenin, just the Apple logo. No product shots initially.
Positioning Apple as the rebel, the creative force. He even insisted on Richard Dreyfuss narrating it, right?
Yeah, he said if he used his own voice, people would think it was about him. It's not. It's about Apple. Brilliant branding.
This set the stage for, well, an unbelievable product run.
Absolutely. Starting with the iMac in '98. That colorful, translucent design, it shouted, "Apple is back." Sales jumped.
Then the Apple stores in 2001, everyone thought he was crazy.
Experts predicted failure. Sorry, Steve, here's why Apple stores won't work. But he wanted total control over the customer experience, the Genius Bar, the design. Wood, stone, glass.
And iTunes, also 2001, they bought SoundJam and simplified it.
Massively simplified it. Rip, mix, burn. Remember that. So easy. He even called it probably the best Windows app ever written when they released it for Windows.
Cheeky.
Then the iPod. October 2001, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Pulled it right out of his jeans pocket. Simple. Integrated with iTunes. People mock the $399 price. Idiots price our devices, but it just took off.
It became the symbol of Apple's comeback.
It was the essence of everything Apple was destined to be, and it paved the way.
For the iPhone in 2007.
3 revolutionary products in one. His hatred of buttons led to that huge multi-touch screen. Only one home button, pinch to zoom. It just changed everything.
Kicked off the whole smartphone era we live in now, single-handedly. And then, just when you thought maybe that was the peak.
The iPad in 2010.
Yep. A tablet with no keyboard, no stylus, pure multi-touch. Again, people scoffed initially. Remember, hashtag iTampon trending?
Yeah, but it became another huge success, creating a market people didn't even know they wanted.
Exactly. Products you didn't know we needed, but then suddenly can't live without. That was his genius.
And all this comes back to that design philosophy, right? That Zen devotion to simplicity.
And perfectionism. Even the circuit boards inside had to look good. That commitment to detail, integrating hardware, software, content, that was Apple's magic. His magic.
Okay, so we've traced Jobs' incredible arc. But to really nail down that wealth gap, we need to look at Bill Gates and Microsoft. A very different story.
Totally different approach.
Yeah.
Gates and Paul Allen founded Microsoft in '75. Their big break wasn't hardware, it was software. First BASIC for the Altair.
But the huge one was the IBM PC deal in 1980.
Absolutely pivotal. IBM needed an operating system. Microsoft didn't have one ready. So what did Gates do?
He licensed one, right? QDOS.
Exactly. Bought it cheap, renamed it MS-DOS. But crucially, he kept the rights to license it to other computer makers. Genius move.
So they weren't tied just to IBM.
Nope. While Apple built the beautiful closed box, Microsoft spread its software far and wide, MS-DOS, then Windows, Windows 3.1, Windows 95.
They just came to dominate the PC market.
Dominate is an understatement. 90% share of the computer market. Microsoft software was everywhere. Their model was license, license, license.
And that relates directly to Gates' wealth. I saw a figure if he'd kept all his original Microsoft shares.
He'd be worth something like $1.47 trillion today. It's mind-boggling.
So that's the core answer to the $10 billion versus $59 billion question?
Pretty much. Jobs sold almost all his initial Apple stock in '85 after being fired. Gates held on to a huge chunk of Microsoft, a company that achieved a near monopoly in the dominant computing platform for decades.
So Jobs' wealth came later, mainly from Pixar, Disney, and his return to Apple Rewards.
Exactly. It wasn't his founder's stake. It highlights two fundamentally different paths to enormous success. Jobs' integrated perfectionism versus Gates' pragmatic, widespread licensing.
Their personalities were different too, it seems, both demanding.
Oh, for sure. But Jobs' criticisms could be really personal, cutting. Gates, while maybe awkward sometimes, like with eye contact, was seen as more fundamentally humane.
Jobs thought Gates was unimaginative, right? Ripped off ideas.
That was definitely his view. But Gates, interestingly, admitted he wished he had Jobs' taste. He recognized Jobs had this amazing instinct, this magical feel for design. There was some grudging respect there.
And speaking of strong opinions, that story about Jobs confronting Rupert Murdoch about Fox News.
Yeah, telling him it was destructive, a blot on his reputation. saying the real divide isn't liberal-conservative, it's constructive-destructive. Challenging him to be better shows his willingness to speak his mind, even outside tech.
Okay, let's move toward the end of Jobs' story, his health issues.
He was diagnosed with that rare pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor around 2003, 2004.
And he delayed surgery initially. For 9 months, tried alternative
He
medicine.
did. It's a decision he reportedly regretted later. A very controversial choice.
He took medical leaves in 2009 and 2011, and finally resigned as CEO in August 2011.
Yeah, saying he could no longer meet my duties and expectations. Named Tim Cook's successor. Planned succession.
One of his most powerful moments, though, must be that 2005 Stanford commencement speech.
Oh, absolute legendary. So personal. He talked about dropping out of Reed, getting fired from Apple.
Which he called the best thing that could have happened to him. Amazing perspective.
Right. And his cancer diagnosis. The core message.
Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Just wow.
Profound stuff. He passed away not long after resigning, October 5, 2011. Complications from the tumor, respiratory arrest.
His sister, Mona Simpson, wrote about his final words.
Yeah. She said he looked past his family and just said, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
What do you make of that? It's so intriguing.
It suggests, I don't know, a sense of wonder, curiosity, even at the very end. Like he was still seeing something new.
Fits with his relentless drive, maybe. His final big project was Apple Park, the spaceship campus.
He obsessed over that design, not a straight piece of glass in the building. Wanted apricot orchards planted, remembering the valley's past, always thinking about the details, the legacy.
And that legacy, it's immense, isn't it? His philosophy, his vision, that's what he really left Apple.
Yeah, he believed his real contribution wasn't charity, but the products themselves. Things that changed industries, changed culture.
So recapping, Jobs lost his first fortune, built a second through Pixar and his Apple comeback, driven by vision, design, tenacity.
While Gates built an empire through software licensing, dominated the PC market, very different paths, different styles, both achieving unbelievable success.
Which brings us back to you, listening. What does it all mean? You know, if Jobs hated on-off switches, maybe he thought consciousness, innovation, they don't just switch off either.
Makes you think, right? What kind of enduring contribution, something beyond the simple on-off of daily life, are you trying to make?